Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to have a look at the 5 differences between Excel sheet and Google Sheets. Which ones are better, which ones are worse? Let's get to it. So the first thing we'll have a look at is the cost. How does Excel compare to Google Sheets? Well, the first thing we can say about Google Sheets is that you can start this without any cost. So you have a 15 GB storage, simply open up a Google email address and you would have all the features that you would find in Google. So Google Sheets, Google Drive and many other features along there. Now, when we look at Excel, it is much more expensive relatively to Google Sheets. It is a licensed product and it will set you back almost $70 a year. But what you will notice is the amount of storage that you'll find here, which is 1 terabyte, doesn't compare to the 15 GB. So as a starter, I would say Google Sheets definitely wins this when it comes to cost. Now, another one of my favorite features right here in Google Sheets is the data validation list. So let's just try the differences between Excel. Now, if we go onto the data tab and go over to the data validation, we're going to do a simple data validation for a list. So we go down to here and we're going to use the department, all the entries in the department as a validation. Now, if we go onto the cell and have a look at the differences here, you have the duplicates entered. Human resources, IT are entered twice as they appear in the list. Now, on the contrary, if we do go over to Google Sheets, we go onto the data and we go to validation. We're going to add a rule here and we're going to go for the drop down from a range. Now, the range is going to be selected from here down to C15. So if we just move this out of the way, we can have a look right there. And there you go. So if the list is there, we can just push that down. C15, we have the range. Now, the brilliant thing here with Google Sheets is that you can directly do the conditional formatting from here. So perhaps you want to have training in green and let's do admin for blue and let's do for green and let's do blue for sales. So this is something that can be done directly in data validation in Google Sheets. Now, if we just close this over, have a look at the drop down list, it even gives you a grey highlight here. You can go and just type it in and not only is the data validation looking prettier, but the one thing that you will notice is all the duplicates are removed. So IT is here only once and human resources is also here only once. Whereas when we come back to Microsoft Excel, you'll find it as it appears in the list here. The other brilliant thing that I really like about Google Sheets and its data validation is that you could simply start typing in. And as you type in, you do actually get the drop down. Whereas this feature is a bit longer and lengthier in Excel. So that is why I would rate Google Sheets for the data validation and list format number 1. Another one of my favorite features is the unique count that Google Sheets has automatically. With Excel, it takes a little bit of a workaround. So let's just go and have a look here. We want to do make a pivot table right here, or just go and add a pivot table. Now what we're going to do is we will just have a look. We want the pivot table to be right here. We're going to add the number of orders and we're going to add the product. Now, if you notice here, we have 10 different number of units that are ordered, which is correct. And these are the items that were ordered. So altogether, these are appear twice in different orders. But now if we go over to the pivot table on Google Sheets, let's just see what the difference is. We'll add a pivot table over here. Let's go and add a pivot table. Now we want to add it in the existing sheet as well. So let's do that and create. So what the difference here is, if we add the product onto the rows, we add the order number in the values. There is a very nice feature here where you can actually do count unique. So this means the individual number of orders that we had rather than the total number of orders which we are getting right now in Excel. So if we have a look here, we have the number of times each product appears in an order. So 2 luxury perfumes, but the number of times has been, how many orders we have is 7. So if we have a look in one order, there are 3 items and the order number is 1001. But if you look over in Excel, it still gives you the 10. So this is a very nice feature, and I would rate Google Sheets number 1 for this feature. Another cool feature in Google Sheets is the dynamic refresh that you would have in pivot tables, and this is just not available in Excel. The only time that Excel refreshes the data is when you manually type in here refresh, or you can have the settings that every time you open up a sheet it will automatically refresh. So what do I mean by this? So if we just have a look at the red lipstick over here, this is the pivot table that's created from the above data. Now perhaps we want to change a different code over here, so we want to change the description. Now once we change that up here, it doesn't automatically refresh here. What we need to do is we need to right click and we need to refresh the data, and there you go, you have the red lipstick come up over here as 001. Now if you look at the same time in Google Sheets, what happens? Red lipstick, and we have red lipstick here. Now let's change the data here and let's add the same thing, 001. Now if you just keep an eye, this is going to change once I press enter, and there you go, dynamically updated. So for this reason, I rate the pivot refresh in Google Sheets as the number 1. Another feature that's really nice in Google Sheets is the share function. As it's a collaborative tool online, you can do various different things. You can have your colleague on the same sheet as you as well here. You would usually see that when someone else is changing data, so you can work on it at the same time in real time. And if your colleague is online, you could actually just chat to them over here, add an @ so you could actually go through this and you can add it to your colleagues. So all the data and all of the comments can be seen on the right here, and you can do that if your colleague is online. Now the difference in Excel is with the newer 365, you do have comments, you do have sharing, but it's not as much of a collaborative tool as Google Sheets is. So for that reason, I would rate Google Sheets for collaboration in real time number 1. Okay, simply put, Excel just has a lot more functionality and a lot more capability than Google Sheets. What are the main differences? One of the key features that Excel has is it can actually process over 17 billion cells of data, whereas comparatively you would have only 5 million data cells that would be available in Google Sheets. Now, one of the key differences that I've found when I've used Google Sheets, and trust me, it was a very different learning experience in Google Sheets. There are some capabilities very good for collaboration, but as it's a cloud-based program, it does tend to slow down when you have either many people on it or a lot of data in the sheet. Whereas Excel can obviously be offline and it can work in very many different ways. So the capabilities overall when it comes to tables, power pivots, queries, formulas and functions surpassed on Excel versus Google Sheets. Google Sheets is really a spreadsheet program that you could start off with if you're just learning how to do the basics. So you won't find much of a difference, but if you're used to having a lot of data and handling a lot of different sheets, data, you would be much better off in using Excel. Now in Google Sheets, you just don't have the table functions that we use in Excel. So unfortunately, there isn't anything to compete with that. You could use a number of array formulas, but when it comes to table functions, Excel is definitely the clear winner. So if we just highlight this data here and Control T, we have the headers, we have a table. Now, the biggest difference between Excel and Google Sheets when it comes to table functions is a lot of data can be manipulated very fast. Now you have your automatic filters and drop downs over here. You can filter your data. For example, if we want to do greater than 30,000, we would have that, and that is simply not available in Google Sheets. The other thing is the table is extendable. So if you just carry on writing, if we just have another name here, we can just enter it and the data just continues. So if we just write here more data, the table will continue, and anywhere the table is used for any functions, any queries, the data will be automatically updated. And when it comes to Power Pivot and Power Query, there isn't anything comparable in Google Sheets that you could use it for. So we won't go into the details of Power Pivot and Power Query today, but these two tables have been added into the data model. And if we just click onto this, then we can start to enter our models here. So if we just delete that, we can just go in and insert a table, a pivot table from our data model. We'll just add it over here. And if we just have a look, we have the category data table here, and we have the linked data sales table here. So these are the functions and features that you're just not going to find in Google Sheets. Now, one of the newest features that Microsoft 365 has got is called the XLOOKUP, which basically replaces the VLOOKUP function, which is a vertical lookup. The XLOOKUP can look in either direction and can be replaced in most cases with an index and match function. So if we have a look at the VLOOKUP function in this query over here, what we're trying to do is we have a name from the drop down list over here, and what we're trying to do is get the employee code. Now with a VLOOKUP, you need to have the main referencing data on the left and any of the data that you need to provide in the columns on the right hand side. With XLOOKUP, you don't need that. So the function and the syntax here is we look up the cell over here, and what we need to do is look in the range over here for the name and return back the value that is on the left hand side of it. So this is possible now with XLOOKUP. So if we just try that over here, we can go to Raymond Marquez and we have the employee number here. Now, on the contrary, if we do the VLOOKUP function in Google Sheets, it just doesn't do that. And it doesn't have a function as yet to do the XLOOKUP right now. So for this reason, this is the newest feature that I've been using regularly in Microsoft Excel and has really replaced the HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP for me. Another new feature that has just been launched in Microsoft 365 is the hide and unhide sheets from different Excel and from Google. So now how is this different? In Google Sheets, you would need to go onto the sheets here, and the ones that are slightly grayed out here are the ones that are hidden. So you would need to click on that to unhide them, and you would need to do that one by one. The new feature now in Excel helps you to do this. So what you would do is unhide, and you can, in previous versions, you would have to click one by one, but what you can do is now hold the Shift button and select all of the sheets, and now they get unhidden altogether all at once. Now, the clear winner when it comes to capability, formulas, functions, and the way you will be able to manipulate your data is definitely Excel sheet. I would say that this is the Ferrari of all spreadsheets. Now, when it comes to Google Sheets, there's always a place for another player, and Google Sheets does have its advantages. You can use it as a collaborative tool and you can use it online. So there are many differences. It's also something that I would call more of a Toyota, and it has its place as well in the spreadsheets of this world. It is a very good tool when you first want to get started and you want to play around and see what's going on with a sheet, what it does, the capabilities. So there are places for both of them. But my personal favorite, if you are somebody who looks at data and a lot of it and wants to have the capability of many different ways of analyzing it, then definitely Excel sheets is the way to go. Thank you for watching and listening today, and see you in the next session.